Hi everyone, this is Chris Wolff. Today for my final project I wanted to discuss technology adaptations, specifically how teachers adapt to certain new emerging technologies and how they are affected by it and how our students are affected by it and sometimes the resistance that teachers take to not have to use the technologies they believe in a more traditional style classroom. So new technology. As we move into the 21st century, newer technologies are emerging in the classroom, like laptops, smart boards, iPads. I'm sure many people have iPads and tablets even in their classrooms nowadays in better schools around the United States. These technologies are great, but they are sometimes met with resistance in certain areas of teaching. There can be possibly English teachers um, that maybe want to use handwritten notes and use handwriting instead of actually typing things out and certain things like that. So there can be some resistance that's found around these new technologies. Is it right to adapt? Should we adapt to these new technologies as they're implemented? That's the real question here. Many teachers like to stick to textbooks and other traditional methods to reach their students. I, for one, am not that sort of teacher. As a technology teacher, I believe that we should be using as much technology as possible. If we're going to let our students achieve greatness and become, number one in education again as we have in the past, we have to adapt to these technologies and we have to allow these students to use these technologies as they're implemented in our society. So a move towards new technology. There's many that argue that embracing new technologies is absolutely necessary. We have to do it for the students who are growing up right now. A man named Bernie Trilling, he wrote this book, 21st Century Skills Learning for Life in Our Times, with Charles Fidel, and it's a very interesting look at how students are learning nowadays and what we need to do as educators to make sure that they're successful. And he argues that it's not only necessary, but it's inevitable for us. If we're going to have successful children, we need to have technology in the classrooms. He's quoted as saying in the book, "It's just the way society and businesses are moving. The question is how long the shift will take and how underserved our students and economy will be if we delay the transition." So basically what he's saying, it's more of a not an if, more of a when, and we need to start to step on that quickly if we're going to have successful students in the next couple of years. Before the technology boom of the 90s, most schools and classes were traditional education systems, meaning textbooks, class notes, things like that. Technology in the classroom was rarely used, and if it was used, only the teacher would use it. No students were allowed to really use these old machines, as you'll see on this next slide. On the left, you can see a classroom looking at watching some sort of film, obviously from the 50s. It's double reeled, and you don't see that anymore at all. And on the right hand side is a college class in the 60s. It's almost like a writing lab. It would be the equivalent of like a computer lab today in our classrooms. In the present, newer technologies allowed educators to branch out and create new and diverse lessons and projects. These smart boards and laptops, they allow teachers basically to do anything they really want to, and they allow students to kind of jump in with them. They're now able to adapt to different students' needs and can see where students may need more help. Students can use the technology more now. They're basically hand in hand with the teacher online. Sometimes even the students know more than the teachers as of right now. So in these couple of pictures, you can see the young children, obviously maybe second, third grade, using the smart board. They understand it more than some teachers do now. One of the newer overhead projectors that don't necessarily use scrolling as they used to in the 80s. And this is a clearly 80s IBM picture, but as you can see, there's computers all throughout the room, really showing a difference between the two. And this is very similar. This is kind of just like a comparison shot. As you can see, the two previous old pictures we have a classroom with one reel of film. Meanwhile, on the bottom, you see there's four computers visible that each student can use if they want to. Whereas in the upper box, no one would be able to use this technology. That only the teacher would be allowed to sit there and press play or stop and pause. And on the right-hand side, you see, like we said, the '60s computer college writing class or writing lab, and down below you see one from 2012 with brand new computers. And what it looks like from the top, you can only fit maybe 5, 6 typewriters in there, and now there's 35 computers right in that room by itself. So what are we looking for in the future? Right now in 2015, we have amazing technologies. Like I said before, the smart boards and tablets that help out educators and students in the classroom. but we're looking really for what's next. And the next big things to come up are social networking, which are already pretty much implemented in throughout school, cloud usage, and virtual reality. Virtual reality is a very big thing coming in both gaming and beyond that. Basically, using a virtual world to do anything. There's simulations, things like Second Life can be considered virtual reality, and those are all getting implemented into schools now as a sort of new technology. Cloud usage is just a great way for you to connect with your students. Um, Everything can be uploaded to this cloud, and students can look at the cloud. Parents can see the stuff on the cloud, and students can even upload stuff to that cloud, so you can see it and grade it, and it can really integrate a lot of your classmates and a lot of your students with you and together, everyone together. Um, so these are just a couple of pictures of what virtual reality can do in the classroom and how effective they can actually be. On the upper left, we see two students watching an Oculus Rift screen, and this is a biology class. And basically, these students are going in using virtual reality to look at this biological project they're doing, and they're really getting a lot more information out of it than they would normally have just looking at a model or being not really being able to touch through it, but just being able to see and really being able to get your hands on it, not necessarily physically, but in a mental sense, to be able to view that and be able to somewhat touch it, really can get you a greater understanding. On the right, this is a college session at Ole Miss, and they're using Second Life or another virtual reality sort of program, and that teacher is communicating with them via the TV, and they're learning in a class just like they would if they were right there actually present in the class. They're just using this virtual reality to make it easier for them to learn and get educated too. So does technology really help in the end? The main argument between these traditional style teachers and more progressive teachers that I deal with today is the technology we offer in the classroom really effective compared to the textbooks and older methods and things that some older teachers use to this day? And the answer is I think so, and the government thinks so. According to the U.S. Department of Education, technology ushers in fundamental structural changes that can be integral to achieving significant improvements in productivity. Technology infuses classrooms with digital learning tools such as computers and handheld devices. It expands course offerings, experiences, and learning materials. They build 21st century skills. It increases student social engagement and motivation and accelerates learning. So really, the government just thinks it's a great thing. In addition to all the positive things that technologies can do for students, it can be just as effective for educators. Technology can create a more connected teacher, as the U.S. Department of Education likes to say, making it easier for teachers to connect to students' resources and educational content. You see a lot of teachers now using their social networks like Facebook or things like Instagram or even Twitter to post their homework assignments and give lessons to the students that maybe missed a day or if they were absent or anything like that. From my own personal standpoint, as a high school technology teacher, it's very evident which classes are using technology and which ones are not. Many of the students will be quick to say to me even that this teacher or this class is boring because we're not doing anything in it or we're using only textbooks and stuff like that, whereas a lot of the kids who are in these more progressive classes that use computers and do these interesting projects, they're amazed and they really respond to it well. So why are some teachers reluctant to use technology? These are direct quotes from our critical reader book. I don't want to spend my time wandering around the classroom trying to catch people who are emailing. I want to spend my time getting them to engage in a conversation. And that was Fran discussing, why she limits her usage of the computer in the room. Another quote from her: that first period class is very quiet and not interactive. A lot of it is they all use their computers. They're all behind their screens. She really doesn't like how they have to. She can't get a good conversation out of them. So new technology. As we move into the 21st century, newer technologies are emerging in the classroom, like laptops, smart boards, iPads. I'm sure many people have iPads and tablets even in their classrooms nowadays in better schools around the United States. These technologies are great, but they are sometimes met with resistance in certain areas of teaching. There can be possibly English teachers that maybe want to use handwritten notes and use handwriting instead of actually typing things out and certain things like. Overall, I believe that if we are to be successful as educators and we are to give our students our best shot, we have to stay with the times. We have to keep these technologies in our classroom. The students have the potential to learn and understand more, and they always have the knowledge to have. They always have more knowledge available to them at all times if they have this technology. So for my bibliography, I did try to get a good mix of both online and book sort of resources. Many of these are online. Some of the new literacies reader, of course, the required book that we had all years, I used that extensively, as well as Bernie Trilling's 21st Century Skills Learning for Life in Our Times. That was a really interesting book. It really opened my eyes. Um, this has been my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing what everybody else had to say with theirs. Thanks.